What's going on, guys? Michael here from 3D Print Everything, and this will be probably a long video of me just rambling and talking about my initial opinions and experiences with the H2S. So I haven't had an H2D yet. I did a repair on one. I ran it just a little bit, but I needed the build size of the H2S to complete a large print order. That print order afforded me to buy 20 of these machines and all the filament needed, which that is not all of it that I need. So you can see this is about 40% of the filament I need for that job, so I've got about twice that coming. None of what's on the printer right now is the job that these were bought for. These are just kind of some of the initial test prints, and since it took me about 5 days of solid working to set all this up. So this room was completely empty, and we set up these 4 shelves, and 4 shelves made a fifth. It actually made 5.5, so I have another beam, another shelf, and another rack. So this is 1 shelf, and then that's a half a shelf because it's daisy chained onto that one, and it's a 4-tier shelf. So 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4th rail. So if you end up getting 3 of these, you can make a whole nother 4th. So for $200 a piece at Home Depot, you can buy 1, 2, 3 shelves and have enough to make a 4th, which is pretty cool. I did need another one, so I bought a 5th shelf, and now I have a half. So if I went and bought 1 more shelf, I could make a whole nother 3rd shelf and have another 3 here. But I don't need that up here right now. Some of the initial, let's just go over initial stuff. 1, these are heavy. When you get one, it's either going to be a 2-person lift for you, or you will be working. These are upstairs, so I had to drag every one of these upstairs. I dragged about 12, 13 myself, and then the other 8 I had someone help me get them up here. It was an effort. You know, me as a middle-aged male, who doesn't work out on a daily. I used to work out in high school, so I have some residual strength. I was able to just do it, but lifting some other heavy stuff in the past, I take the condition of my back very seriously, and this was essentially right at the limit of what I was comfortable doing before potentially hurting myself. So just be aware of that if you get one of these, that you have a contingency plan for setting them up and whatnot. 2, the unpacking and setup time, I would say much longer than a P1S, because that's what I'm most familiar with. I have a fleet of P1Ss downstairs. Took about 45 minutes to an hour per machine. If we count actually getting it to your first print, you're probably at an hour and a half, but just unboxing and getting it turned on, about 30 minutes solidly. Maybe I got it down to about 20 once I had done about 10 of them. Not too bad. I didn't film that process. I'm sure there's a bunch of other people. I can just quickly review it if you haven't watched any other videos on it. But these only come with the AMS right now, so the AMS comes on the inside. There's like 2 screws here, 2 screws on either side. You take those off, 2 screws here, and then 3 screws on this side, 3 screws on this side, 2 in the back. You take all that off. You can take the AMS out. You can take the brackets out that have it in there. 3 zip ties around the top XY assembly, and there's a lot of foam. Piece of foam here, over here in the middle. Some pieces of foam. Let me see if I can get a better view of it over here. There's some pieces of foam in the very back, near where the Z rod is. You can't see it there. And you take all that out. There'll be some foam under the bed that you can't get out until you turn it on and power it. So as soon as you turn it on, power it, and start the calibration, very similar to the P1S in that you'll connect it to Wi-Fi, then you'll connect with your app, get it there. And there's kind of 2 ways of doing this. So the way that I chose to do it was connect to the app, and then in the app update the firmware first, because one thing I've noticed with the P1S and some of the other machines, you can connect, and then the first thing the printer's going to want to do is do its calibration, right? And once you do the calibration, takes 30 minutes. You then do your big firmware update, because this has been sitting in a warehouse for months, and they have big updates for it. They might update that calibration process. So then they recommend after the update that you calibrate it again. So if you want to skip, you know, an hour-long calibration process, plus the update itself takes a good amount of time. You know, I'm on fiber here, so it wasn't any lack of internet speed. It took a good 15-20 minutes or so. I didn't time it exactly, but it was a considerable amount of time per machine, and that wasn't like me overloading anything by doing them all at once. You know, I'd set them up and power them as needed. So the update does take time. So if you know, if you want to expedite that a little bit, in your app, once you pair it, it'll say, hey, things are incompatible with your current updates, which is talking about the AMS2. You know, go ahead and update the firmware. Update the firmware. Then on the screen, you'll still be at the, like, hey, choose your region and everything, even though you already did that. It'll then be like, oh, hey, you can't choose your region since you're already logged in. You'll click through that a couple of times, and you're already calibrated. Now, what I did from there was, with this machine, I had already bought the Vision encoder. So, you know, you can read a lot about, and I'm sure you possibly already have if you found yourself on this. If you haven't, I'll do a quick little salesy review on like what makes this better than a P1S and why you should get it. There's a good amount of sensor suites in this, and I much prefer the single nozzle over the dual nozzle. I do like 98%, 99% single color prints, and it is nice to have the AMS for a couple of certain things, and I'll get to that. But the H2D has a much bigger head, and it cuts off about 20% of your build plate on either side for each print. So this has a bigger build plate building area than the H2D, even though it's essentially the same machine besides the head there. That is important to me because the H2D did not have the build space for me to do the print job I needed it to, but this one does. So that worked out real good, because I was looking at the Creality K2 Plus, a little bit cheaper. I think it's about the same price if you got the 4-color add-on, but with the K2 Plus I could buy it just single color. So I was a little happy that I could get the AMS2 and have all the extra sensor features on this, because the K2 Plus is built nice. I would say built to almost the same quality as far as like the mechanical printer setup of the H2S. And again, this is just a subjective opinion, but the Bambu is noticeably a more accurate, higher quality software suite and precision in things. So I've had 4 K2 Pluses so far. I only have 3 now because I had to return one of them, and they have issues. Brand new, low hours. There was Z banding on one of them that was completely unacceptable, and I just returned. 2 of them cannot find level at all. So like they just continuously have the nozzle rammed into the bed, and at the beginning of every single print I have to go in, click like 3 different things on the screen, get down to an expert tuning mode, and then adjust the Z offset. And I have to do that on every single print on 2 out of the 3 K2 Pluses, and that's super annoying. These guys get a perfect level every time, which is great. And they have 3 cameras, one here, one somewhere over here. I think it's 1, 2 over here, and then there's a third on it. There's a bunch of other sensors on the head. I haven't torn into the H2S head, but I did tear into an H2D head, and there is a lot of electronics up in that head. It is not like a P1S where it's one little small board and a few plugs. It's like 2, 3 boards and a lot of sensors and whatnot. So it's pretty impressive. Now, let me go back to this because I showed you this. So this is the Vision encoder, and essentially what this does is this makes your H2D or H2S more accurate. So what it does is it's able to read all of these little individual QR codes. So these are all unique QR codes for their position in space on this steel here. And what it'll do is it'll scan it, it'll understand where it's at, and then it'll find a point here, and it'll move 100 millimeters here, or 200, whatever. And it'll move back and forth, back and forth. just like it would on the print, and then it measures how far off it is from being completely accurate, and it adjusts for it. So this is a further calibration. This is like $100 extra thing, but you only need that. You know, that's kind of like if anybody's familiar with using a scanner, how every once in a while it's like, hey, recalibrate your scanner by using a plate similar to this, and it'll read where it is in space and recalibrate. Same thing's happening here. It's got automatic belt tensioning. So as this belt wears in and starts to wear out, it will keep that belt tension tight, which is going to help keep your prints more accurate. Another just little caveat thing that I like, this is a progress bar. It also blinks red when something's wrong. It blinks green when it's ready. Super cool. It looks super futuristic. You know, very EV and you know, EV cars kind of have something like this. I don't have an EV car yet. I do have a hybrid, but super cool. Let's see, what else? Has HEPA filter, has a camera calibration, so you can calibrate the cameras. You take the build plate off, there's some QR codes on the magnet itself, and it does a quick calibration of the camera. So the way I did it was, as I got all these set up, took my vision encoder, put it on one, did the vision encoding, put it on the next one, did the vision encoding, did the camera calibration, and then went through, and then after that I did a final full print calibration. So it took a little bit to get all that done, but all these machines now print really clean. I mean, these are some of the best. I'll just open this one. These are some of the best prints as far as side quality, you know, Z height and accuracy I've ever had. Which is very nice, and what I expect from a Bambu. Now this is PETG. PNTG is known for being a little stringy. This is the absolute cheapest PETG I could get a hold of. It's like literally $10.50 a roll. It's fantastic as far as the price goes, and it's printing good. Now this stuff, some of you have already maybe noticed, like, hey, this thing's making a mess. That's not ideal. Yes, I agree with you. Not ideal. This particular filament is not the same as this one. This is 4 times the cost and is food grade certified. And I believe what was happening is the chamber wasn't warm enough, I think, and because there's about this much on this print touching the build plate, and I did another video kind of explaining this, so I'll try to be quick with it. The angle's like this. It's a very sharp angle, and I'm doing 0.12 layer height, so a very tight layer height on this print, so that we have a very smooth edge there. I mean, you can see it is a very tight layer height, and because it's so tight and it wasn't going up fast enough, the edge was starting to curl, just kind of like my finger like this. That nozzle dragged over that area and would create some stringies that would get stuck to the nozzle, then deposited somewhere else, and that created a bad layer there at the beginning. I mean, there's so much junk you can hardly tell that it's angled, but it just kind of immediately protrudes out. You can really kind of see it right there. But then after that, everything else has been looking very good. It does look like I am still getting a little bit of residual stuff kind of up the seam there on the supports. And that, that just brings me back to where I kind of was before Bambu, is, hey, there is some things I can do in the settings to potentially improve that printing experience. So I'll kind of do that. I'll look at the tune and see if I can come up with a custom profile maybe for this filament. And specifically, if you're curious on what filament this is and how it's certified food grade, it's called Carbon is the brand. I'll show you a roll of it. I've got one over here. So this stuff has a bunch of, here's a QR code. You can pause the screen and maybe capture that if you want. But yeah, this stuff is food safe 3D printer filament. They got a bunch of stuff online that they can send you on how it's food grade, and yeah, these are going to be used in a food project. I don't even know, or I'm not supposed to share, one or the other. But yeah, so that's kind of what went on with that. Little disappointing, because that's like the very first or second print on most of these printers, and I immediately got some issues. Now, while that was happening, in that amount of time, these things flagged, stopped about 4 times and flagged about 8 times for spaghetti detection, which is good, because in a normal setting, that would stop the print. And if I had time on this particular order to stop it, make changes, and improve it, I would have done it. But I, 1, did not have time. 2, these prints take up exactly 1 roll of filament. I bought all of that filament that there was available. So if you wanted to buy this exact color of gray carbon filament, it's not going to be available for like 2 months. So my bad, guys, I bought it all. But they do have other colors, so if you're immediately in the need for some filament and you're watching this video within a few days or a few weeks of me posting this, you know, you can grab a different color. But yeah, so I've just got to let this go through. I knew that the rest of the print would be a very clean print. I know the geometry of it, and you can even see here that it just started some support area there. Or not some support, but where those supports are going to one of the overhang areas, which is cool, and that looks great. But yeah, so I just needed to see this through, and I'll do a lot of post-processing to sand that down, fire it smooth, and I think it'll be acceptable for the client. If not, I will deal with it, but he's also on a time crunch, so I've got like 3 reasons why I had to just leave it. And when it flagged it for spaghetti, it sends you a notification, and then the assistant is like, gives you a warning here. Then it'll actually pause it, and you have to come over here and say either skip it or go with it. Now, I think the skip it is if you're doing multiple prints. I'm not exactly sure, but if you're doing multiple prints, you might be able to skip the one that has failed. I'll have to double check that, but if that's actually one of the features and you can skip 1 print out of like 4 that turned into spaghetti, but you want to save the other 3, that's going to be really cool. Can't confirm that that's exactly what that is, but I'm thinking that's what it is, and that's what this little skip button does. I'm not going to hit skip because I'd hate to screw this up. But yeah, we'll just go through this real quick. So we get a really nice readout here of time. This is the progress bar 2, so 52% represents how far this has gone. So just from a glance, you can see if a print is about to finish or not. We do have, you know, some speeds here, so it looks like we can crank up the speed, crank down the speed, possibly move that stuff around. We have this air conditioning. Annoyingly enough, I can't really oh, you know, okay, chamber exhaust fan. I think, I'm curious. Let's do this to one that doesn't matter. This one doesn't matter if I fail it. So, because one of the things I was worried about, and I'm learning here as we speak, is I think that also had an issue because it vents and it's pumping cooler air through that. And if it had kept it just a little bit warmer in this build plate area, it might not have warped. And because I did not have this bad of an issue on the P1S. And the only big difference I can think of between the machine itself is the fact that this is actually keeping this cool. Now that might help with bridging, but I don't have bridging issues with PETG generally, especially not on the enclosed printers. So and there's not a setting specifically to turn the vent off. You know, we can see that the vent is up on all of these, and the vent is down on the ones that finished. And certain filaments are gonna have the vent down. So let's see, air conditioning. If we go to exhaust and just turn it off, change any. It did. It immediately turned it down. Man, I wish I had figured that out yesterday. And there's wasn't an easy setting or anything in Bambu Slicer or anywhere that I could find to do that on the software side. So that might be something that if you're just doing PETG, that you need to come over and turn the exhaust off for some prints, and that might help. Interesting. So can we change the chamber temp? I'm just curious. No. Maybe you need to be in heating. Yeah, so we can't change the heating. We can't change the chamber, but we can at least turn the exhaust off, which is cool. I don't think we need to jack with anything else really. But yeah, we also have the heat bed. I can probably change the heat bed. Can't change the Can't change that. Could possibly change the nozzle if need be. Filament is right here when you add some filament. So during the print time, as it's printing, you can't do anything with this. So I can't change what filament type it is. I can't do anything. So if you're gonna load a print up, let's say you started a print with 1 roll, and then midway through the print, you're like, oh yeah, that's not gonna be enough. It needs 70% of a roll, and I guess I only had 50%. You're not gonna be able to add more rolls of filament to it. Oh, well, actually, let's see. I don't think so. You can't change it actively, but let's see right here. We're gonna learn together real quick, because these are some of the important things. I know this is gonna be a long a long video here, and sorry, my filming capabilities are terrible, and my editing is non-existent. I know and understand. Okay, so it didn't do the normal thing when you put it in there, that it like goes down and checks and everything, but on the screen here it shows we do have something. Yeah, see, so I can't change it. That was my suspicion. So if you start a print and you want it to do the auto refill, where you know, once it runs out of that one, it'll pull from that one, you need to have that set up beforehand. You cannot do that midway print through. That's an important one to learn and know. I suspected that was the case. So on like this one here, you know, I went ahead and put 2 rolls in. And on this one, I had done that where I put 4 rolls in, it burned through, you know, the other 3, which is really nice, because this makes, you know, the reason I actually wanted this, since I do so many single color prints, was to burn through my stock of partially filled or partially run through rolls. So now I can put, you know, 3-4 rolls on and get, you know, a half roll to a full roll's worth of filament into one print without having to constantly monitor it. So that was important to me, and why I didn't mind paying the extra bit for the AMS, because it is likely that within a month, 2-3 months, these will be available as just a single color printer without the multicolor, and that'll make it $250 cheaper, which for the price there, this is an excellent machine. One other small caveat I noticed is these like to jiggle. You know, you can see this thing jiggling a little bit. You know, let me see if it's easier to kind of see it down the side. None of them are jiggling too heavily, but you can jiggle it pretty well. The feet on this deal are on the printer is pretty soft. Now obviously they did that for a reason. There's a lot of engineering, so I don't plan on changing the feet out to a stiff foot or anything like that. I'll just leave it the way it is, because I figure, you know, they wanted it to jiggle just a little bit, so yeah, we got a thick girl that likes to jiggle. That's what's going on with these printers. Now, if you're curious about the tile, this was also done at Home Depot. This is a porcelain tile with a faux marble look on top. Very heavy and sturdy, and so that's 1 sheet right there. You get 2 of those for like $30. So to do 1, that's $30, and then another $30, and you can cut that in half, and that gets you 2, and then you'll need another half for a third. So when you're doing all of these, it's like I think I spent like $400 in tile to do all of these, but that gives me a really nice, professional, easy to clean, heavy duty finish, so that we're not on the metal grate under that the shelf came with. Okay, what else? The print times are acceptable. They're actually less than a K2 Plus. I'm not sure why the K2 Plus can actually slice things in a considerable amount less time. You know, if you're working on something like what I'm doing, where print times might be a concern, you know, it might be worth looking into a K2. Yeah, you know, I would say this: if you're going to use 1 to 2 printers and you need to print a lot of things quickly, and it's an easy print and it's going to be the same exact thing, the K2 Plus might be the better option for print time. The quality is definitely going to go to the H2S, but if you can get 2 really good, you know, Wednesday built K2 Pluses, you know, they're going to print a bit faster than this H2S. Now, could you get the H2S to maybe do it as fast? Maybe. You know, if you start really jacking with the speed on these, you know, maybe turning it up you know, you can match the stock speed of the K2 Plus. I don't know. I'm not really here to do a big comparison over it. I've just noticed that when I do the basic same exact settings on a K2 Plus versus this one on print times, that the H2S and H2Ds had a slower print time on average than the K2 Plus, which was a little annoying. But I'm actually kind of curious here to see, yeah, see our chamber temp's starting to rise. I'm curious to see how much that'll get up to. Just by chilling there, which I'm totally fine with. And then what else do we got? So if you're also curious, I put in some air filters. So I got 1, 2, and then a third over there. All this is still going to get cleaned up, so please excuse the mess there. You know, quality construction, this is just their plastic that they use, same as the P1S. I forget if the I think the H2Ds come with the aluminum case. Not really worried about that or care. As some of the other video reviews seen have shown, this little not having a lip here is nice because the P1Ss have a lip, so you can't just rake your filament out. But you know, we can just come up here, grab little stuff like that, rake it onto the floor, and I have no problems doing that because we have some cleaners that come twice a week and pick up all the filament. I don't plan on just being an absolute messy person and leaving a big mess, but just for the sake of the video, I didn't mind raking it on the floor. Obviously do that with a trash can or something, but that makes it real nice. With this shelf here, I had to orient it where the AMS2 was up top, and I put the AMS down here, so I was able to get 5 obviously on one shelf here, which I think is a really nice setup. If this shelf was just like 7 inches higher, you know, I could have made this shelf a little higher and then put the AMS there and fit 6 on one. But I kind of like this height because this is literally at perfect head height right here. And then these, they only go up. So this is at a really nice angle here too. So it worked out really nice, and it's not too bad. So I can deal with that. What else? Okay, so here's one thing to notice. So just as far as print quality goes, let's look at, man. All right, let's just look at it on here. So this is 0.2 layer height. Got definitely some stringing that we need to deal with. We can look at that edge quality is what I'm trying to kind of view here. So as far as perfection goes, it is not, but it's decent. So that's 0.2. This is 0.12. So this is a much lower layer height, and look at how those edges came out. Much crappier. Now, the reason for that is that it had more time to warp, and it created that same crappy effect that we're seeing on those over there. So a larger layer height actually gave us a better and smoother curved edge here, which is not normally what you would think, but that's due to warping. So if the warping could be managed, then we'll have a much smoother edge there. But as far as like once we got up to here, I mean, like I can't even begin to show you how nice that really is. Now my phone is beginning to die, so I'm going to plug it in here briefly, and we'll go over some of the slicer settings maybe. And I might have to make either a second video out of this or just end it here shortly. It's already fairly long. Let's see. The sun is like right in my eyes too. Look at that. Jesus. Okay, so yeah, otherwise I think everything on here. Oh, one other thing that's really nice is the camera is better than 0.5 FPS. So we actually have, let's see, what's one of them doing something? We'll look at it. No, that one's already done. Which one's not done? Like 1? Oh yeah, I'll go over that. That's a little thing that I doubt anybody else kind of noticed. But okay, yeah. So the camera is actually, you know, what is that? I'm not sure what FPS that is, but it looks like at least 15 to 30 or 60 FPS. Much nicer now that there is a proper FPS. So one thing that's annoying is naming these things. You know, you get a whole lot like this, you want to kind of name them, so I just named them H1 through 20. But look at how it does this. So it does H1 and then H10 through 19. Then there's H2, but then H20, and then H3, 4, 5, 6. So if I had like 50 of these, H21 through 22 would come before H3, and then you'd have H3. So like, if I wanted to name this kind of the way I'm doing it, I would need to name it like H112, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then H2, 1, H2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it would be weird. So I'm gonna have to kind of consider how I've named this, and it broke up, since it does this in alphabetical order, and I don't think there's any other. Yeah, there's no other way to do this. So just be aware that this is gonna come in alphabetical order for online, and then non-online printers will be in gray. But if you have a bunch of P1Ss that have custom names, and then you want to come in here and do something like this, it's going to kind of break all that up. So I might consider renaming some of my P1Ss to be similar, or I don't know. I need to kind of figure this out, because it's slightly annoying to me that I want to do 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4, but I have this, so it does it like that, which is kind of dumb. Now what else? Lamp printer parts, previews, got the calibrations, went over all that. Repair. Yeah, I think that might be about it as far as what I can go through right now. This has already been a 30-minute video. Overall, I am happy. I am impressed. Oh, the last thing. Okay, so this is one of the most important things, and I probably should have got this in the video earlier. These are power-hungry machines. Now, if you debate online, or if you read online, there's a lot of different debates and information out there on how much wattage and amperage these pull. In my, again, more simpleton mind, I'm not an electrician. I know just enough to understand this stuff, but not enough to be anywhere near an expert or journeyman or apprentice or whatever. I know just enough to like ask the right questions and kind of pull it off. Simple rules of thumb that I did as a very simpleton, which is not the right way to do it. Don't copy what I'm doing. Is plug in as many machines to one circuit as you can. Start them all up on a hot print. Some PETG or PC, and see if it pops a breaker. And when it does, remove one printer and keep going down until you can keep that on the circuit. Now, what that will leave you with is you're using a maximum amount of that circuit, and if you've got a 15 amp breaker and you've got 2 printers on it, you might be using 13 to 14 amps, which is over the 80%. So you might be really warming those wires up, and that could cause issues long term. So there's my preliminary warning on it. The advice I got from my electrician was, when he looked these machines up, that they pull 8 amps. And that's at max, that's at warm up, and they're going to fluctuate, as we know. So on a 20 amp circuit, you can comfortably fit 2 machines, and you might be able to do a third if you warm up 2 and then wait for the third one. Once the first 2 warm up the third one, and then you can run that. But he warned that like 3 might be, is pushing it and might cause long-term issues. And honestly, that's what I've got set up here at the moment. So each 3 of these is on a 20 amp circuit. Now, if you start doing the math here, that's 20 machines divided by 3 on a 20 amp circuit, each one. All that's added over there. Luckily, the price wasn't too bad, because I didn't do a bunch of custom outlets in different areas and all that. But I paid thousands of dollars to get that electrical done. And I've just about got my breaker panel maxed out in sockets, because we added, like up here in this room right now, I'm using, what is that, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 20, 40. So I've got 140 amps in this room and that's a considerable amount of power. With all these vents on, it heats up the room pretty good. This used to be the coldest room in the shop. Now it's the warmest. I like it below 60. Yesterday it was like 72 in here. I was beginning to sweat, so that was super annoying. Now that I figured out how to shut the exhaust off, I will be doing that to hopefully keep that heat contained and keep the room cool, and hopefully the print's a little better, because I think with how cool I'm keeping the room, that's also a part of why, if it's bringing in some of that cold air, passing it over the build plate, across the part, warping it a little bit, and then shoving it out the back as warm air, that's annoying. Because I believe what's going on is it's sucking, like, even though heat rises and it could go out that vent, I'm pretty sure it's sucking in from there and pushing out the back through a filter. That way you are kind of filtering the air as it leaves, and that's going to be important for ABS and ASA and maybe a couple other filaments. But yeah, my recommendation would be 1 per 15 amp circuit, only 2 per 20 amp circuit, and then probably only 3, maybe 4 on a 40 amp circuit or 30 amp circuit. My business partner was trying to explain to me that there is a difference between commercial 3-pole power electrical boxes versus single pole residential boxes, so that the load gets spread between multiple poles on a commercial 3-pole setup, and that correct me in the comments if I'm just talking out my butt, but from my understanding, when you can split the load between 3 different poles on the commercial breaker, your breaker is going to stay a little cooler. The wires will stay a little cooler, so that when you're riding the line of how much electricity you can pump through a 20 amp breaker, your thermal and electrical limits are going to be just a little bit higher than on a residential. So, and from what I've read online, most people are saying, hey, a 15 amp circuit is fine, and if you want to plug your laptop or phone into the same circuit, that's cool, but don't put this on the same circuit as your microwave, because when you run your microwave, you might pop the breaker if you're warming up the printer at the same time as your microwave. Now, as far as the warm-up procedure time goes, it's very quick. It takes like 30 seconds to 1 minute to go from cold to 70 C. So the warm-up time is very fast, and that's a part of why it takes so much power, is it's just warming that thing up really quick, the print bed. But I don't think it's that much more when it comes to actual printing. It is a bit more than the P1S, but not that much more. Yeah, I think that's about it for this moment, guys. I'm going to let my phone charge. It's been a long video, and I will come back and talk more about this when I have a little bit more experience. If I release a new tune, maybe it is just as easy as for certain PETG filaments, you just need to close the exhaust fan off. So I'll do some experiments with that. But yeah, guys, check out my new setup. Let me know what you think of the setup. Any of the stuff I said, if you've got any opinions on it. And let's happy melting plastic. If you get one of these guys, let me know what your thoughts are on it. The noise, I don't know if y'all can hear it or if you heard it in the video, but it's fairly low. It's just so much better than what these things used to sound like 5-10 years ago. Before Bambu came out with these enclosed printers, King Runes and Crealities used to be super noisy, and now you're just hearing these little light noises. I am contemplating doing a thermal curtain in front of this whole rack, so I would mount it to the top of this thing and run it over there, and then maybe another one for this one here, and I would just block off that whole area with a thermal curtain, and that would allow me to have a little bit more a cooler temp area over here, and then on that side I could have what I could probably do is do it like right there where that little light is on one or the other side, so I can keep the AC on this side, but I could have the light on that side of the curtain, and then I could go over there and have a lighted area behind the curtain that would be a little warmer and keep the heat in. And that would also keep the noise over there, because over here we've got our TV stand is coming next week with our 2 high-end speakers, and then we've got a 3rd speaker there that will be the center once the stand comes, and we'll do a different amplifier than that small little one, but that one does the job for the moment. And then we're also going to have 2 subwoofers on either side, and we'll do some other room acoustics to make the room sound better. But the room already sounds a lot better now that these machines are in here, because they are absorbing some of the vibrations and creating some areas. And if we put up a curtain, that would further help with that, with the sound waves and dissipating the high-end stuff. So it would be a sound dampening thermal curtain. I'm considering that. If anybody has any recommendations on a good company that could do that, because I was looking at some of the options on Amazon and nothing was super tickling my fancy there. I'm not in any super rush to do that specifically, but I do think that might be an improvement on the side of keeping it cooler up here, because I only have that vent and this vent, and there is no pull here for the hot air, and some houses there might be a vent either up top or on the side that pulls the heat out. That is not the case up here, so all the hot air kind of just congregates in this area, and the cool air is the only thing coming in, and it stinks a little bit. And these windows are super freaking bright and let in a fair amount of heat too, so it could be something to where I just do a big L and go to there and then come across all the way to here, and I just cut off the whole damn thing. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts on the video. Feel free to critique my filming capabilities, lack of editing, and what you think. If anybody would like to help me build this channel, as far as doing a little editing work up front and kind of showing me what you can do, I would love to work with someone and then turn that into a paid position, to where as we brainstorm and come up with new and better videos to do and you edit them, that I recycle all the ad revenue from making those videos to pay you for the editing, up to the point of you're getting a good salary. If we ever get this thing to actually, the YouTube channel, to make a proper amount of money, to where we can afford to just buy printers and randomly review them or this or that, or do really cool, goofy projects, that would be great, and I would love to get it to a staffed point. But until that point in time, the channel does make a little bit of money, enough that I think it would interest somebody with editing skills to help me take this further. And I would potentially have a very small amount of money at this exact moment that I could spend on an editor, but I do want to grow with someone, so it's not something that I need anything crazy with. But if you've watched this far and you're a video editor and you're like, man, there's so much potential here and I'd love to work with you, please reach out to me. 3dprinteverything.net is the website. My email's at the bottom there. I would love to talk with someone about potentially improving my editing as far as these videos go, and brainstorming some new video ideas. So yeah, I will end that there, guys. Have a good day. I've got a lot of plastic to melt. I just wanted to kind of vent my thoughts on this and let everyone else know. Definitely think it's worth it. If you want to get one, please do, and hopefully some of the tips and tricks I gave you there either helps you with that decision, or helps you understand that you're not going to be able to add your H2S to the circuit that you already have your 2 P1Ss at. You may have to there may be some added expense to upgrade your space there. I do recommend air filters too. Spend some money, because microplastics in the air are a thing. These guys having the HEPA filter will help with that some, but go ahead and mitigate it. And that'll also just keep dust off the printers and other stuff. That's why I bought 3 of them. 3 days in, I know I was doing a lot of cardboard and other stuff. I noticed a lot of dust in the air. There's a lot of dust on my TV screen already. So, yeah, you know, I hate dust, and dusting is annoying. So the more air filters you can get to kind of capture that stuff, the better, in my opinion. But anyways, all right, I can keep going for hours. So have a good day, guys. Happy melting plastic. Like, share, subscribe, all the cool stuff. And peace.